Okay, I am Joyce Rockwood, and I am here with none other than my most amazing father, David M. Spindel, for episode 2 of Precious People Encounters. And it is May 18th of 2018. And today we have an amazing story, a very precious story with Katherine Hepburn. So, Dad, what year was it? And why don't you take it away?
It was probably the late 80s. I don't have the exact date because I don't have all my papers with me. But I knew that Katherine Hepburn loved to roller skate when she was younger. So I made a print of one of my photographs of a pair of old roller skates that had wooden wheels hanging on like an old barnwood wall, which I'll show you later. And I decided to send it to her, again, to show my appreciation for all the enjoyment I received from her movies. And about a week later, I get a phone call, and my assistant answers the phone. And he says, "I think it's Katherine Hepburn on the phone." Of course, he knew it was the way she speaks, unfortunately, due to her illness. I get on the phone, and Miss Hepburn says, "I want to thank you for the beautiful photograph of roller skates." I said, "Well, it was my pleasure." And I had written a letter explaining why I sent it to her. She says, "Well, do you have other photographs like this? I'd love to see them because I love memorabilia." I said, "Well, I'm sort of known as a memorabilia photographer. I have hundreds of photographs I've created over the years." She said, "Would you like to come and visit me?" I said, "Twist my arm." So I said, "I'd love to bring my wife along. Would that be all right?" And she said, "Oh, well, of course, I'd love to meet both of you." So she said, "I'll put my secretary on the phone and we'll set up an appointment for you to come and visit." And the secretary gets on the phone, and she happened to have a brownstone in Manhattan, and that's where I went to visit her. And the secretary says to me, "By the way, don't you dare bring anything for her to autograph." I thought she was going to bite my head off. I said, "I hadn't even thought of it. I don't collect autographs of celebrities I know. They're my friends. I'm not getting them to sell, And I let it go with that. So about a week later, my wife and I went up to see her. We spent several hours with her, showing her my photographs, and she was thrilled with what I did. And she says, "How do you collect all this stuff?" I said, "Well, my wife and I, part of our enjoyment is going to flea markets and auctions and buying these goodies, because I use a lot of these items I buy in my photographs, as you can see." And as we're finishing off the conversation, the secretary says, "By the way, Mr. Spindel, what is that you brought that's all rolled up?" And I sort of grimaced a little bit. I said, "Well, I brought a movie poster on Golden Pond, because considering I've done numerous movie posters like Broadway Danny Rose, The Cotton Club, Platoon, all these famous movie posters. And I thought she would sign one. I'd love to hang it in my movie theater." So she says, "I thought I told you Miss Hepburn does not autograph anything." And I sort of grimaced a little bit, shrugged my shoulders, and Hepburn points to her mouth. She says to her secretary, "See this? It still works. For Mr. Spindel, I will sign it." She goes over to a piano, moves over all little knickknacks that she had on top of the piano, rolls out the post, and she writes, "To David Spindel, with deep appreciation for your fine work." And I'm like amazed that she wrote that, And then she says, "By the way, are you going to send this to Henry Fonda?" I said, "Well, yes." I didn't want to tell her I already wrote to him. So she says, "Well, here's what you got to do." I said, "What do I got to do?" She said, "Well, you got to go buy another one." And I sort of in my head said, "What the hell do I got to buy another one for?" So you realize if he sees my name on it, he won't sign it. He likes to be first. That's my Katherine Hepburn story. And in case some of you are curious, here's a picture that's going to be in a book I'm doing called Precious People. If you look up here, you can see the picture of the roller skates. And here's just some of the letters. After my visit to her, we sort of became pen pals, and I would send her different things. I found a great picture of Spencer Tracy with a lei around his neck, and I sent it to her. She writes back, "Great picture of ST. Thank you very much." Very simple. And here's a picture of me in my movie theater. And there's, several pictures showing, the actual poster that she signed. And these
So,
are,
Dad, I just have to ask you, when you first got on the phone and you heard her voice, do you even remember the moment? Because that's kind of
I freaked out, to be honest with you, because, most of the celebrities I write to will send me a thank you note. I didn't expect her to, personally call me. I actually sent something to Johnny Carson once. Of all things I sent him was a picture of a summons between a girl's breasts It's called the double-breasted suit.
One
So
of
he
your
called
Rebus.
me, one of my Rebus images, yes. And he called me up. He says, "Great photograph, great boobs, and who's the girl?" He didn't even say anything about my photography. I freaked out, but it was just
Great
funny.
photograph. He said, great photograph.
He liked it. So that's just one of the celebrities that called me. I mean, I think one time Frank Gifford called me, and my son answered the phone. He said, yeah, you're Frank Gifford, right? He didn't know I had just photographed Kathy and Frank's wedding. So, when celebrities call, people get confused when they answer the phone.
So when you're on the phone with Katherine Hepburn and you were talking with her, I mean, do you remember like what that felt like emotionally to be on the phone with such an icon?
I couldn't believe she took the time to call me and thank me and spoke to me for a couple of minutes, like we're old friends. It was just amazing. I think most of us who see celebrities on TV never expect to meet or even talk to them. Right. I'm not one to run to go see where a celebrity is. I'm not a celebrity hounder. But it's like when I photographed Joe DiMaggio, he asked me, "Would you like me to sign anything?" I said, "Why?" I said, I met you, I photographed you. I said, if you want, you can sign your photographs when I make some prints. And that's another story. I'll tell you.
We'll do that one another time. Let's stay on focus.
Another time. That's a long story. I knew Joe 12 years.
You had many exchanges with Katherine over the years. You met her in what year was the original time you met her? That encounter?
I'd say the mid 80s. And then our pen pal relationship continued on to the early 90s.
Awesome.
And it was just mind-boggling. She would always answer my letters. I always bugged her nonchalantly. I said, "Do you think you'll ever have time to pose for me?" She said, "Well, I'm doing another movie now with Anthony Quinn. I don't know if I'll have time. I'll have to figure out at some point. Maybe I will have time because you do such beautiful portraits of people." I said, "Well, I hounded my grandmother till she was almost 100. And she finally posed for me, but I had a trick. I told her I was just checking out a lens to see if it worked. I didn't tell her I was actually taking a picture. It's one of my favorite pictures of my grandmother. Shows all the nooks and crannies in her face. She was gorgeous, little old lady. She was a real toughie.
It's an awesome story. So any other moments of the relationship that you can think of or you wanted to share, or does that pretty much sum it up?
That pretty much sums it up.
Okay.
There's probably other little things, if I search my memory bank, but, I'm getting old. The brain doesn't work as good as it used to. That's why I have my wife here to remind me.
It's a great story. So we're gonna wrap up on this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you found it as tender and sweet and precious as we do.
And just so you know, this is the book I'm working on. It's called Just a Kid in the Candy Store of Life.
Awesome. So, all right, everyone, stay tuned for our next episode when we highlight our next precious person, our next precious people memory. Our next episode will be on Betty Davis. Ooh.
She was wonderful.
All right, well, checking out. See you guys next time.